Today, I'm with the first pick. Christmas is coming early, Rick, because we're firing up the old mock draft machine for another first-round mock draft. I'm Ryan Wilson. That's CBS Sports Draft analyst Josh Edwards. And that, of course, is Rick Spielman, who said he is on one today, which is weird because he's always on one. This is episode 206, Rick, and before we get going, how many days until the 2025 NFL Draft?
Josh, you know how many damn days are left until the 2025 NFL Draft? There are 133 days left, so get your arse back and start watching that tape.
Nothing I'm not nearly prepared enough. 133 days is just not comforting at all because there is still a lot of work to be done. It's like Santa Claus getting ready for Christmas now. But it's going to be exciting because I don't think any of us feel too good about the number of players that are going to have first-round grades in this draft class. So today's mock draft should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, we got 32 picks, so we got to find 32 players. Whether you got
just so you know, Josh, Santa Claus is not a procrastinator. He's ready to go. He's just got the days marking them off.
There you go. Ho, ho, ho from Santa Rick there. Thank you for that, Rick.
And I'll get another lump of coal like I did last year, just a different color.
By the way, hey, Rick, just so you know, on Tuesday's Overreactions, you were on the road, undisclosed location. Several people guessed Ohio State, so you have to send them a gift if you were, in fact, at Ohio State.
Yeah, I was at Ohio State, so Debo will send everybody out with the first pick gift. I'm sure he will do that because I'll bring more viewers into this thing. Knowing if they guess locations right, they can actually get some gear from with the first pick or some kind of memorabilia.
Just so we're clear, you will get nothing and like it, to quote Judge Smales. So don't listen to Rick. One more thing before we get going, Debo, I thought you would appreciate this, and Rick, you would too. And Josh, I don't know if you listened to the show on Tuesday, but Rick said the funniest thing ever. So I have a new little contraption for you, Rick. You ready?
Yes, please show it.
It's the dumb bucket. And guess what? I got a little piece of paper. Rick was tardy today. 1 hour late. It goes in the dumb bucket, Rick. So there you go. So I suspect the dumb bucket will be getting a lot of use on this episode with these picks.
He's got a little pulley action and everything. He's
Geez, he's got a lot of time on his hand.
I do not want to tell you how much time I spent jerry-rigging this MacGyver thing up, and I should have been doing other things, but here we are.
I would have just nailed it to the wall. Like when my wife asked me to hang curtains, I tried to put a rod up one time, and she wasn't here. It didn't work, so I just nailed the curtains to the wall.
That checks out. That checked out. All right, let's get to this thing. Josh, since you're our guest, good to have you back on the show. You get to make the first pick. As we sit here, the Las Vegas Raiders on December 12th, 2024, have the first pick. And Josh, you have a choice. I'm guessing you're going to take a quarterback, but maybe you'll surprise us. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I'm going to take a quarterback if for no other reason than they need depth, because every single player at the quarterback position on that roster has been injured at one point or another this season. The quarterback number one, QB1 in this draft class has changed for me multiple times already, which is typically not a good sign. We started with Carson Beck. It worked to Shadur Sanders. And now we land on the number one overall selection, Cam Ward from Miami. I just think that with his the accuracy that he has shown in the second half of the season, it has been better than his peers. He's got the improv, type ability to his game. So as the organization is looking to move forward, whether that is with Antonio Pierce or someone else as head coach, I think Cam Ward is the right player for them to begin that next journey.
Rick, you're going to be next for the Giants at number 2 here, but I will just ask you, do you still prefer Cam to Shadur, Rick?
I do right now. I think there's still plenty of time for those two to flip. And since both of them, someone threw out the ball on the playground, and right now it's reported that both of them will be playing in their bowl games because they're trying to jockey for a position. It'll be interesting to see how the final result ends up. I would have Cam slightly ahead of Shadur, but Deion Sanders and his sons will be at your living room, Josh, because I want my kids to go to Vegas, so you didn't take them, so get ready.
Hold on. I want to ask you a question before you make a pick for the Giants, though. Any consideration as the Giants to trade up for Cam as Rick Spielman, since you like him a little more, it's not worth it?
It just depends on how big a difference it is on these two on your board. Are you happy with either or?
I'm asking your board in particular.
I would be happy with either or right now.
Okay. So you're not trading up for.
Didn't I see Shedeur was at Madison Square Garden here in the last couple of days too? Seemed like he got a pretty rousing round of applause.
Rick took him to the Knicks game.
Yeah.
All right, so
they love him just as well.
So Shedeur it is, Rick?
Oh, yeah. That's a no-brainer. What are they going to do? They're going to go with not Danny DeVito, Tommy DeVito.
His contract's up. I think Drew Lock's contract's up.
Yeah.
They might by the time we get to week 1.
Yeah, Danny DeVito is available, so they could consider that. All right, Debo. Shedeur Sanders is going second overall. Quarterbacks go 1 and 2. And Josh, we talk about this every single week. I would imagine you agreed that these two quarterbacks would probably be QB5 or QB6 a year ago.
Yeah, I agree. Probably would have been behind J.J. McCarthy, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Caleb Williams. Probably would have been pretty comparably rated with Bo Nix. I wasn't as big of a fan of Nix coming out last year. I will happily eat crow. I'm glad that he's been good. It's been good for that organization. But yeah, full transparency, he would have been the 5th or 6th quarterback for me in last year's draft.
The third quarterback in last year's draft, Drake May, is having quite the year for the Patriots. Patriots have huge needs as offensive line, but this, to quote Rick, is a no-brainer. I'm taking Travis Hunter all day long. I was watching who was I watching? I was watching a cornerback earlier today who's going to the Shrine Bowl. Let me find his name real quick so it has some context here. Pizza. Brandon Adams, BJ Adams, cornerback out of UCF. And I watched him play. He's a long cornerback, Rick. I watched him play against Colorado and Travis Hunter. And he's a lot of fun, BJ Adams. He had no chance against Travis Hunter. Just reinforce how good Travis Hunter is in space, man-to-man. We'll see what happens when bigger corners get their hands on him. But, Devo, give me Travis Hunter. He's going to be a force at cornerback, and then however many plays you want to use him on offense for Drake May. Next up, the Carolina Panthers, the mighty Carolina Panthers. They got their quarterback, Josh. You were on the clock. What are you doing for Carolina?
Yeah, the outlook on Bryce Young is a lot different than probably the last time I was on the podcast. He's been playing fantastic, and I think within that organization, you have to feel really good about where they are headed with him as the franchise quarterback. At number 4, I'm going to recycle a line that I used during the 2022 Trayvon Walker draft, which is this. I wish the draft is essentially starting at number 5 overall because I don't feel good about any of these guys being a blue chip, build your offense, build your defense around them type player. One player that I do think could be that level of player if he's healthy and available is the player that I'm going to take here at number 4 overall, and that is Michigan cornerback Will Johnson Jr.
Oh,
thank you.
Oh, so you like Will Johnson over his teammate Mason Graham, for example, who plays defensive line?
They've got Derek Brown. I thought they had bigger needs. Mason Graham, I think, is a fantastic player and was certainly within consideration here. I just lean towards Johnson because it's a bigger need at this point for that franchise.
No, I get it. And Will Johnson was my number 1 overall player in the summer. He had a turf toe injury the last month or so of the season, but he's on. I think Christian Gonzalez was your comp. Rick in the summer. Mine was Patrick Surtain Jr. Either way, you can't go wrong. All right, Mr. Spielman, you are picking for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I don't think they need a quarterback, but they need just about everything else.
Yeah, this is a no-brainer. Mason Graham, to me, is the most dominant interior defensive lineman. They need help on the defense. You can go at any level, at linebacker and secondary, D-line. I think that if I'm sitting there and I'm Trent Baalke, the GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Mason Graham just fell to me because Josh decided to take a corner. I am high-fiving my way, and it's taken me I'm tripping and pulling a hamstring to turn that card in. Mason Graham, no-brainer to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yep. He just declared for the draft, but that's not much of a surprise at all. And went back and watched him some, and good Lord, man, he's special. So we'll see if he can help Jacksonville get over the hump because they got a lot of humps to navigate. But that feels like a good pick there. Next up, the Tennessee Titans at number 6. To quote Rick again, another no-brainer. They're not moving on from Will Levis, at least given that the top two quarterbacks are already gone, unless they're going to trade for somebody that we haven't even thought about. So I'm just going offensive line. I'm going to keep drafting offensive line until they get 5 of them and they're able to navigate protecting that quarterback, get the run game going. Give me Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas, Devo. Maybe Kelvin plays on the left and you move J.C. Latham back to the right. Maybe Kelvin can play on the right side where Petit Frere has struggled. But they have Skoronski and J.C. Latham and now Kelvin Banks Jr. back-to-back first-round picks to protect Will Levis as he heads into year 3, year 2 with Brian Callahan. At number 7, Josh is going to put on his Rick Spielman mask and help Woody Johnson get this pick right. So, Josh, why are you taking Carson Beck here is my question to you.
Well, I think quarterback has to be a consideration here because of the situation with Aaron Rodgers. It doesn't seem like anybody is happy in that marriage right now. It sounds like he's probably destined to play elsewhere in 2025 if he does return. However, I don't personally feel comfortable enough with any of the quarterbacks that are on the board at this point in the first round. So I'm in a little bit of a quandary because there's not too many players that really step into positions of need for this organization. Would have loved to have had Mason Graham because you put him next to Quinnen Williams, you're really cooking. But I'm going to go with a player that has maximized the opportunity, a position change this season. I'm going to go Abdul Carter. And I know they have Will McDonald. I know Jermaine Johnson is coming back. Let's give him another weapon there because the guy that they brought in this offseason has not been readily available all year long, and clearly they value depth at that position.
You can almost say readily available.
Yes. I probably wouldn't have said it quite that way, Rick.
Yes.
In the bucket it goes. This is gonna be fun.
I can't help myself.
I was going to speak for Rick because he can't talk about the Jets unless it's dad jokes. But you can never have too much edge rushers, is what Rick would say in general. So maybe I get it. Abdul Carter has a chance to be really good, and he had a nice little transition from off ball to edge rush, and I think 6'3", 260 unofficial, so he looks the part. All right, Rick, you're picking for Josh's Cleveland Browns. And I don't know what you could do to save this franchise with one pick, but you got to start somewhere. So what are we doing at number 8?
I think, Josh, since you're a big Cleveland Browns fan, when's the last time they've had a first-round pick? 3 years ago, maybe?
Yeah.
So they have to, and they have a top 10 pick, and they have to definitely take advantage of it. I looked at the defensive side of the ball. They're getting long on the defensive line in the tooth, which means guys are getting older there. You know, Michael Hall Jr., who they drafted out of Penn State or out of Ohio State last year, was suspended. Then he got hurt on IR. I don't know if he's the answer. So I was really looking hard. And to be honest with you, if Abdul Carter was there, I would have taken him in a heartbeat for the Cleveland Browns. But I do know they have offensive line issues. And I know they have issues at left tackle. And DeJuan Jones is not a left tackle. He's better on the right side. So I'm going to go with the best, most ready player in this draft to line up and start day one for the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to go with Will Campbell.
Tackle out of LSU. That totally and utterly screws the Chicago Bears at 9 because that was their biggest need.
Is this your pick coming up?
Yep, I'm the Chicago Bears.
So I got you again.
Got me again. But now I'm going to get you because oh man,
I got you.
Rick is fired up with some jelly beans. So we're going to go edge rush here unless there's hit the defensive tackle button real quick, Debo. Let me make sure there's not someone that I love because obviously Mason Graham's gone. So let's go edge, and I'm just going to take the best edge. And there's some good ones to choose from. Let's go with Mykal Williams, who is I think Rick actually is compared to Travon Walker in terms of his rawness, but athletic traits that are translatable. So he's not the first overall pick, but he certainly feels good at 9. Put him opposite Montez Sweat, and then let him get after it. And we'll have to figure out the offensive line issues either through free agency or later in the draft. Next up, pick number 10. And then we'll go to a break, Josh, and make this one count. The New Orleans Saints also have needs at quarterback, but they have needs along the defense as well. They traded Marshawn Lattimore to Washington right before the trade deadline. So the world is your oyster, Josh. What are you doing at 10?
They have a few areas that they could go. I thought Kool-Aid McKinstry has played a little bit better here recently. A young player that they're happy to continue developing. Wide receiver is a position that I'm looking at. There's been a lot of turmoil with Chris Olave, obviously dealing with an injury at this point. Rashid Shaheed has been good when he's been available, but he's also been dealing with injuries. Chase Young is scheduled to hit free agency. So there's a couple of different paths that New Orleans could go with this pick. But I'm going to go with Tedero McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona. Give them a little bit more size to pair with Chris Olave. I don't know what the quarterback position is going to be there long term. But I know that you can feel happy if you do have McMillan and Olave catching passes from that player.
Yeah, I don't hate that one at all. All right, Rick, you're the Cincinnati Bengals. But first, think about what you're going to do.
I already know what I'm going to do, but let's take a break.
There you go. Well done. So, Debo, you heard it. Rick wants to take a break. We come back. We'll find out what the Cincinnati Bengals are going to do to help Joe Burrow quit taking so many hits.
We need your sports news anywhere.
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
Rick, your phone was ringing right before the break. I'm guessing a team was trying to call to trade up. Did you hang up on him, or did you accept?
No, that was Duke Tobin telling me who he was going to take at number 11.
Oh, okay.
Cincinnati
Great.
Bengals.
Who's it going to be? Number 11, Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, boy, they need help on defense. They need help at corner. I could go corner here. They need help at safety. I could go safety here. They use help on the offensive line. You know, you got Trent Brown, who is going to be a free agent, and he's hurt. Orlando Brown, II, is hurt. They're going to have to try to keep Joe Burrow upright. So with all the needs, I'm going to go with the best available player.
Don't you say it.
What are you talking about? I'm not taking the running back, so that's what you were impending.
Are you going to snake me again?
I would have put in the dumb bucket list, but I'm not going to go in there. So I'm going to go what position has strengths that I can still come around and get maybe a corner later, maybe another edge because there's a deep class of edge rushers this year. So I'm going to go with the best player in my mind that would make an impact in the secondary and Malachi Starks.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick.
Yeah. You know what, Josh? It's like when our GM on this show really is a self-esteem builder. And every time he says I have a good pick, I just feel more and more confident in my ability to pick players. So thank you for that, Mr. Wilson.
You're welcome. I can't wait to revisit our dollar bets because my guy Michael Wilson is going to make me a lot of money because you doubted him. So I got some.
And so is and now that Spencer Rattler has McMillan to throw to, he'll be a Pro Bowler down the road.
I didn't waste $20 on that Spencer T-shirt for nothing, Rick. It's going to pay off in the long run. All right, next up, speaking of paying off, the Dallas Cowboys picked 12th, and I am Jerry Jones. I get that a lot. And I'm going to do the most Jerry Jones things ever. I'm going to thank Duke Tobin / Rick Spielman for not taking Ashton Genty, and I'm going to promptly take Ashton Genty because they need help at running back. I could go any number of directions on the defensive side of the ball here, but Debo, let's go with the running back out of Boise State, Ashton Genty to the Cowboys, and that will magically fix all their problems. Hey, Rick, before we get going here, a quick 30-second overreaction to the news that Bill Belichick is now at UNC. If I told you on December 11th, 2023, that 12 months from now, Bill Belichick would be coaching A, the Atlanta Falcons, B, the Los Angeles Chargers, C, the UNC Tar Heels, would you pick UNC?
Yeah, that'd be like my wife let me go back to be a GM. There was no way in heck that I could happen.
Oh, is that a hint? Are you dropping hints, Rick?
No, it's not dropping hints. I'm just telling you that ain't happening. But no, I don't know if it was, the opportunity. It sounds like they're going to pay him a pretty good penny.
3 years, $30 million.
And the other thing is when you were that close to maybe having the all-time victories in the NFL, does it, and I'm asking you this, and Josh, since it's an overreaction, we can have you participate in this. Do you think, and I'm asking both of you to answer this, that maybe this came about and all of a sudden with some potential openings coming up that he was sifting around, and would he have potentially got shut out by another year of not being hired as a head coach in the NFL? So he took the, as they say, the bird in the hand, I believe.
Yeah.
Two in the bushes. I can't say that. That's a
bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
Okay, I have a different saying, but we won't use that on here.
If you want me to get the bucket out, I'll get the bucket out. It's up to you. So, Josh, what do you think in terms of taking what was available? And there were reports that there wasn't a lot of sniffing around from current coaching searches and ones that are going to be coming up in the coming weeks and months, and obviously not having a chance at Don Shula's record for now.
Yeah, I would say his decision to go to North Carolina was well informed. He has an agent. He has enough contacts in the NFL. I would assume he's probably had his ears to the ground to see what kind of opportunities would be available and whether or not he might be a fit for one of those potential opportunities. From what I've gathered in the past coaching searches, he's looking for a very specific opportunity where he's going to have control over personnel, and a lot of the decisions that are made within that building. So I don't know how many teams were going to be willing to step forward and give him that type of opportunity. And I think the fact that he walked away from the NFL 15 wins short of the all-time wins record probably suggests that he doesn't feel that way either. So going to North Carolina, he's going to have more control over how he builds that roster. It's a new challenge for him. I think at this point, he probably felt that it was his best opportunity. I would love to be a fly on the wall to hear the conversations between he and Nick Saban, because I would imagine Saban has some very poignant views on the current landscape of college football. But obviously that was not enough to deter him from this opportunity. So it is a very strange marriage between the two parties, but it's also one that I'm incredibly intrigued to see how it plays out.
Hey, Rick, let me ask you this, because you know Coach Saban pretty well. He seemed on the outside looking in to have a knack for relating to the players and to their parents and understanding, what buttons to push. Coach Belichick from the outside looking in feels like more of a my way, the highway sort of guy. Do you think that's going to work with a bunch of 17 and 18-year-olds, or am I misguided in my thinking?
Of course you're misguided in your thinking, as you always are. Why would I even think that you're not misguided in your thinking? I would say this. I think with all the media stuff that you saw out there, that you saw that there is some personality, and it's different than probably the impression you had when he was a head coach. I think him being, and Josh made a great point, the COO, the CEO, the president, he's going to run the whole damn thing the way he wants to run it. I know that he'll probably put guys together that are a great staff. And I think just the name recognition alone, if you're a high school kid and Bill Belichick's recruiting you, I mean, you're going to be playing for a coach that's going to be a future Hall of Famer in the NFL. So I think that credibility is going to be a huge advantage during recruitment, and transfer portal, because
Rick, let me ask you this, though. Sorry to interrupt you, but you've made it clear. I don't think this is a secret. It takes a special kid, and we've talked to them. They've actually said this in the comment. It takes a special kid to go to Alabama because you're not going to be coddled, and you're one of many, many, many 5-stars. So I suppose that could go either way with Belichick. And
I can tell you, when down in Alabama, you walk through the all the trophies and things like that. There's one thing I saw that said Alabama has $2.6 billion worth of NFL contracts for players. Now, these kids, honestly, they're going to these type of schools because they want to play in the NFL, and they probably have ability to play in the NFL. But one of the things is when I see $2.6 billion contracts in the NFL total, that tells me that if I come here, I'm probably going to get a chance to fulfill my dream as an NFL player. And when you're getting coached by a legendary Hall of Fame coach, I don't know why you wouldn't go there.
Okay. Just wanted to get that on the record. Get you on the record for that. Sorry for the interruption for people that just love mock draft talk, but There's plenty of that to go around. So just fast forward 2 minutes if you don't want to hear the overreactions or hear Rick belittle me as I put his name secretly in the dumb bucket again. All right, pick 13. Josh, you're on the board for the Miami Dolphins. What are we doing here? Because I think they're 6-7 right now. I think they can win out, perhaps get into the playoffs. But for now, what are you doing to help this team?
I think that it's very clear that Tua Tagovailoa is the franchise quarterback there. I think with the way that this season has played out, he has certainly answered all questions. I know the contract already validated that, but I'm just saying if there were any doubters out there about Tua Tagovailoa being the Dolphins franchise quarterback, those
put that in on
answered.
Yeah, there you go, Josh. You're in the dumb bucket.
Well, I'm happy to be included. I will say that they have, I think, some very straightforward needs. They've been able to patch over those this year. Long term, I think they need to address the offensive line. I think that they need to address the teeth of their defense as well. I think they need defensive tackles. I think they need offensive guards. There's a couple of different positions that they need, but I'm going to go outside the box here. I'm actually going to go Jalen Walker, the linebacker, pass rusher, however you want to describe him, out of Georgia with the number 13 overall selection to the Miami Dolphins.
I like it. Don't hate it. I was thinking about him with the Cowboys at pick 12, the pick before, if Rick had taken Ashton Genty, but he passed up on a Hall of Famer, but that's on Rick. All right, Rick, pick 14. You're the Indianapolis Colts. What are you doing? Jalen Walker would have been a good pick for the Colts as well.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And I'm going to do this. I can see defensive line, Buckner and the other defensive tackle. Grover Stewart. They're both getting long in the tooth. They still are under contract a year. They can use help up front on the defensive line. But I cannot get out of this draft without helping Anthony Richardson.
Oh, interesting.
And Mo Ali Cox is not the answer, and he's a free agent. Granson is a free agent. I have no tight end that is a true offensive weapon, and I'm not doing this to butter up Debo, but I'm going to take the Penn Stater, Tyler Warren, to the Indianapolis Colts.
Now, are you labeling him as a tight end? You labeling him as a quarterback, running back?
I'm labeling him, which is why we do this job, as a football player. The guy is a football player, and you're one of those mainstream media guys, Josh, and I hate to put you in the dumb bucket that want to characterize this guy as just this. I'm looking at the guy as one heck of a football player who's going to help our team any way he can to score points and win games. So I'm drafting the football player, even though he's labeled as a tight end.
No, I'm helping your pick, Rick. He's a versatile player.
Yes. Yeah. But I'm not lining him up at quarterback. I'm not lining him up.
No.
I know you're trying to be facetious, but that's my job on this podcast.
Hey,
already step on your toes.
Debo, do you remember the last time Rick was this fired up? Because it's not coming to me. He is on one. Maybe when he had 2 Michelob Ultras at the combine and was late to the set.
Yeah, the next morning.
The next morning.
On ice.
Don't forget the ice.
Somebody definitely slipped something into his coffee today.
He went, yeah. This is fun times. All right, next up, Atlanta Falcons at 15. We'll find out what happens with Kirk Cousins in the quarterback situation, but at 15, they have other needs. And I think James Pierce is staring me in the face. I wonder if Nick Scorton's a better fit for what they want to do. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those guys. Nick Scorton's a little bigger. I think I'm going to go with Nick Scorton here just to help them get some beef on the edge. So that's who the Falcons are going to take out of Texas A&M by way of Purdue. He's had a really good season. All right. Arizona Cardinals. The second half fade is in full effect. This is not Cliff Kingsbury's fault. We'll see if they can salvage things and make a run for the division. But in the meantime, Josh, at pick 16, halfway through the first round, the Cardinals are going to take whom?
I would have been between the same 2 pass rushers that you were the prior pick. As it turned out, I'm pretty happy to take Tennessee edge rusher James Pierce Jr. here.
Yeah,
I think as Jonathan Gannon continues to build that defense, obviously getting Darius Robinson in this past year's draft class, several others in the top 100. Robinson finally made his debut. So now we start seeing this young defensive core kind of come together, and we're going to add Pierce to that bucket this offseason.
All right, Rick. San Francisco 49ers, literally everyone on the roster is injured. So you could draft anyone and make the team healthier, but I don't know if you have a specific group in mind. Trent Williams is getting old. He's been banged up, but when he's healthy, he's still fantastic. But Brandon Ayuk is coming off the ACL, so on and so forth. So I'll let you decide what you want to do here, Mr. Lynch.
Okay, thank you, buddy.
Got it.
They can go all different directions, but they have to take care of this offensive line. And I'm sitting here giddy as hell if I'm John Lynch that a Mr. Banks from Texas is still on the board. And
hold on, Rick. Let me get the dumb bucket.
How could you not take the hit with Puna? They have offensive line issues. Part of them being successful.
Kelvin Banks has already been drafted.
When was he drafted?
I took him with the Titans at 6. Come on.
Oh, God. That was stupid. That was a dumb pick.
I bet you were excited to see Kelvin Banks there.
Yeah, I was like, God.
Fast forward to the telecast. You're an hour behind.
I got to start paying more attention.
You're too busy firing shots at Josh.
Yeah.
I was waiting to see who this guy was going to be. They're going to draft. You're so excited about along the offensive line.
Yeah, I was like, Banks is still there, right? No,
he's gone.
Okay, he's gone. All right. Well, let's go to the corner position then. They definitely need corners.
Oh, dang it, the heck. I shouldn't have told you.
Yeah. And then how about I'm going to go with Benjamin Morris over Siobhan Ravel.
So, you're taking Morrison over Ravel. Interesting. Okay. And he's had, I believe, the hip injury. He's been out for much of the season, so we'll see how he is in the pre-draft process. We talked about him over the summer, Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame, and we liked him. So we'll see how that plays itself out. Next up are the Rams. So they need offensive line help, too. They have similar needs to San Francisco. I like Josh Simmons, but he's coming off the knee injury, and we talked about it, Rick. I wish he'd come back to get a little more experience because he's a San Diego State transfer. He played well when he was healthy, but as you noted in previous podcasts, he really didn't play anyone, and they got to the Oregon game, and that's when he got hurt. I'm going to take Siobhan Ravel coming off the ACL injury out of ECU, long cornerback. They need help at corner, so I think he provides that for the Los Angeles Rams, and I appreciate Rick leaving that guy for me. We'll see whether Ravel or Morrison has the best rookie season or year 2, depending on injuries. And we'll make a dollar bet about that, I'm sure. All right, pick 19, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 7-6, atop the division because the Falcons can't quit losing games. What are you doing, Josh?
Yeah, just to go back to a previous talking points, we've talked about Josh Simmons, we've talked about Siobhan Ravel, we've talked about Benjamin Morrison. Seems to be a lot of guys coming off significant injuries in this year's draft class. Do you think, and I'm directing this to both of you, do you think that teams are more open to the possibility of a player coming off a significant injury this year because maybe there's not as many true first-round talents as we are accustomed to seeing in this year's draft class?
Are those conversations you have, Rick?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree because the depth, and it depends on what the medicals come back on these guys too. So if the ACL was just an ACL and no other injuries, and it was a pretty straightforward, and who was the doctor, what's the success rate of the doctor, how quickly will he be ready to go? So I don't know if like an ACL is looked as significant as maybe it was earlier, just because of the new technology and the way these guys are coming back. My greatest guy I ever seen come back off an ACL in less than 9 months was Adrian Peterson when he rushed for 2,000 yards that year, and he tore his ACL in like November or December, and went on a pretty good roll coming off but he was a freak. He was different than most human beings are built. So I don't know if it's as big a factor, but a lot of it will have to do with their medical experts will say once they get their hands on them and they go through the physical portion of the combine.
By the way, Rick, I'm sure you remember this, but we had your buddy Eric Sugarman on, who was the head of medicine for the Vikings for a long time, and he spoke explicitly about the comeback for AP and how it was, only an alien could do that, and obviously he did it and did it at a high level. So there's only one AP, just in case you're wondering, Rick. There's not another one out there that can do what he does.
Okay. Thank you.
You got it.
Yeah, I think in the medical world, I think Adrian Peterson's return from that torn ACL was comparable to the accuracy argument with Josh Allen. We say that everybody can do it, or anybody can do it in regards to a quarterback being able to fix their accuracy issues after they get to the NFL. The same is true of Peterson. You try to put him on anybody on an 8-month ACL return, that's just not human, as you alluded to. I mean, that's alien-like. So, but I guess back to what we were doing, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Chris Godwin is going to be a free agent after this year. I know they drafted Jalen McMillan. You've still got Mike Evans. The way that they are running that offense right now, spreading out the football, if Chris Godwin does not return, Luther Burden Jr., I think, is an interesting fit for what they want to do schematically. You get him the ball in space. He's able to break tackles with that thick lower body build and create dynamic plays after the catch. I'm going to go with Luther Burden here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I hate it solely for the reason that the Steelers now can't draft Luther Burden, but whatever. It's a good pick for Tampa Bay. You like that, Rick? All right, Rick, this is fitting. You're picking for the Washington Commanders, the team you single-handedly saved last year.
I did absolutely nothing.
All right. I tell people you saved them. You can tell your side of the story. I'll tell mine.
Yeah,
what
I did absolutely nothing. Yeah, I think with them releasing Forbes, they have to take the best corner on the board right now. So,
oh boy, okay, this is gonna be fun. We're running thin. What do you got?
Let me just see the corner list, Debo, and I want to compare it. Boy, that got thin, didn't it?
It sure did.
Roll up. I don't know if Barron to me yet is a first round corner, although he's really risen this year.
Yeah, I like him.
Go to safety because they need help at safety.
There's the guy.
Gosh, is he Jeremy Chin? Because Jeremy Chin was on a 1-year deal, so I can see maybe Dan Campbell looking at a guy like that with that size.
That's a good one. He's a Jeremy Chin type, yeah.
Yeah, and the ability to move around and do a lot of different things with him. Boy.
By the way, for people listening, you're talking about Nick Emmanwori, the safety out of South Carolina.
Correct. That's almost like a hybrid dime linebacker type that would give them a lot of flexibility. And so do you pay Jeremy Chin or do you draft his replacement with this kid? So I'm going to go out of the box here, and I'm going to go with Emmanwori.
Nice. He's fun. I don't know if he's going to be a first-round pick, but he's fun for a purpose.
No, I'm just going, he's a good football player, so
Absolutely.
I'm going off of that. Now, if he runs 4.7, we can change that in the next mock draft. This is December mock draft. Go ahead,
Rick
Debo.
was also talking. I was just going to say Rick is talking about Dan Quinn and not Dan Campbell.
Oh,
gotcha.
Dan Quinn. Thank you.
He's got a lot of Dan BFFs, Quinn and Campbell. I forgot to ask you about that fourth down decision on Thursday because it was Thanksgiving and the last overreactions.
Don't coach scared.
Oh, you're okay with that because you're pretty conservative about the play calling at the end of the
coach scared.
All right, there you go. There's your overreaction. What'd your mom think? Did she think they should go for it or not?
Fearless, not reckless.
What was your mom surprised by the other day that we were watching the Lions game?
Oh, that Chicago didn't call a timeout.
Oh,
she was,
Oh my gosh.
Your
she's
mom got
84 and is yelling, and we're rooting for the Lions, and she's yelling, "Why doesn't they call a timeout?"
The poor Bears fans listening to this having to relive that moment.
No, they're happy because Rick's mom single-handedly got Matt Eberflus relieved of his duties, so they owe Mama Spielman some cookies or something. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Come back. The Chargers on the clock, and I'm very excited about who I'm going to take, and I'll tell you right after this.
If you love football, this is the best time of the year.
This is as big as it gets. The stuff of absolute dreams.
I've been quoting you a lot this episode, Rick, but I'm going to pull a hammy sprint into the podium to turn in Colston Loveland's name to send to the Chargers at pick 21 because they need some middle of the field help for Justin Herbert, who is tough as nails. Quentin Johnson's got to get better. In the meantime, let's give him some options in the middle of the field. And that's going to be Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan, going to the LA Chargers. Next up, 22, Denver Broncos. Josh, you are back on the clock, sir.
Yeah, and I have considered this to be tight end alley because I thought the Chargers, the Broncos, the Seahawks would all be in the mix. I thought I would have a choice of at least one of those players.
Nope.
Rick got the party started at 14 with the Colts, taking Tyler Warren, and now Loveland is off the board. So I really like Harold Fannin Jr.
Oh, my goodness. Bowling Green Zone?
No. I didn't say I was taking him. In fact, I'm saying, but not that much. I'm going to go. I'm going to go with. Do I want to go offensive line or interior defense here?
Don't take a left tackle. Breaking news that they
nope, not taking a left tackle.
Yeah,
what happened, Rick?
Broncos just gave left tackle $82 million deal, $42 million guaranteed.
Garrett Bowles?
Yep.
Garrett Bowles. All right, there you go.
Okay, I think I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball.
All right.
And I think I'm going to take Kenneth Grant, the defensive tackle out of Michigan here.
That's a good pick.
I think the defense has exceeded expectations this year, but now we're starting to add some true impact players, especially in run defense for this defense. So that's my plan here. I'm going to get some players that I think will allow this defensive success to be sustainable.
All right. I like it. Rick, Mike McDonald's your first-year head coach. He's got that defense a humming coming out of the bye for the Seattle Seahawks. What are you doing?
Yeah, I could go defense here as well, but and I agree with Josh. This was tight end alley because I would have took Loveland from Michigan if he was sitting here for Seattle Seahawks. But I have to get my offensive line fixed. Okay. And day one starter coming in, plug and play, is Mr. Booker, the left guard from Alabama.
Tyler Booker, guard out of Alabama. I'm cheering not because I'm happy for Rick. I'm cheering because I'm happy for me. As the Baltimore Ravens at pick 24, they're going to take Mr. Arante Ursary, left tackle out of Minnesota. Moonwalking that one to the podium and feeling great about it. Yes, sir.
That would be a dollar bet. Who has a more impactful rookie year, Booker or Ezra?
Yeah, I think Booker because he'll be inside. But yeah, we'll make a note of that and we'll circle back. I'm not afraid of you, Rick. Pick 25. The Houston Texans are on the clock. Josh, back to you, sir.
I was starting to feel a little bit left out. Each of you got an offensive lineman, so I'm actually going to stick there as well. I'm going to take Arizona's Jonah Savanea to play offensive guard. I think that's been a position of need for them this season. He's played right tackle for the Wildcats, but I think he's better suited to play inside at the next level. So that's the direction that I'm going.
I get it. It feels sort of like the Jordan Morgan arc a year ago. Rick, I don't know if we talked about Jonah. We talked about him in the summer, but I know you weren't crazy about Jordan Morgan. He's been pretty good this year. You okay with that?
Yes, and he's been hurt. Yeah, hardly plays.
All right. Sorry for trying to be Mr. Sunshine on a podcast full of thunderstorms and lightning strikes. Speaking of Green Bay, Rick.
It's called the truth. Just speak the truth.
You're up, Mr. Gutekunst. You took Jordan Morgan a year ago. Apparently, that's the worst pick in the history of Green Bay football. What are you doing at 26 to rectify the situation, Rick?
Debo, could you show me an edge rusher, please?
Oh, man, there's some dogs out there.
Yeah, there is. I need right now, I would say that Gary is the only really true edge guy we have. We need to get some more pass rushers. Landon Jackson is too much like the Iowa guy because he's a big, Van Ness. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to go with JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State.
And you've always had him slightly ahead of Jack Sawyer, his teammate at Ohio State. Is that right?
I have them equal.
Okay. For contract purposes, I get it.
The Mississippi kid that transferred from Florida was in consideration there. I could have went either.
Allen at Ole Miss now, Princely.
Yeah.
Fun fact, Josh probably knows this, but I didn't know this till the other day. Princely Uman his brother's named Prince Uman. I love it. All right.
And he's in the transfer portal.
Oh, I did not know that. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Next up at 27, my Pittsburgh Steelers.
This is a no-brainer. I swear
it is God. A no-brainer. I was
if you
you
do not take this player, because I didn't need this player in Green Bay, then you're going in the dumb bucket. You can put a card in for yourself for dumb bucket picks.
Debo, do you want to guess who the player is that Rick's yelling and screaming about?
I think it's a Mecca.
Has to be a Mecca Ibuka. We're taking a Mecca Ibuka, Rick. How do you feel about that?
You. Well, that's a no-brainer. So, like I said, you would have been – I don't even know. It would have been so dumb that you wouldn't even have qualified to put your name in the dumb bucket.
I'd have to get a bigger bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this pick. As we're recording this podcast, my Steelers are facing Debo's Eagles on the weekend, and George Pickens probably won't play. They found a way to beat Josh's Browns last week without George Pickens, but this is going to be tough sledding with Quinyon and crew without George Pickens. And Emeka Ibuka would be a nice security blanket, but he has not yet arrived. Fingers crossed. All right. Look at that. Josh, you get to be Rick twice. One podcast. You're the Minnesota Vikings.
How lucky. How fortunate.
So, right. Not everyone can say they get to be Rick twice in 1 hour. What are you doing for the Vikings, who have been a fun story with the quarterback situation and B-Flow and that defense has been getting after it? What do they need?
Well, they need defense. Brian Flores' scheme can only cover up so much. And I think that you addressed the edge rushers last year, Andrew Van Ginkel coming over in free agency. You signed Dallas Turner. I think the interior defensive line needs to be addressed here. And there's some really good options. I would imagine this is not going to be the last of these defensive tackles to come off the board here before the end of the first round. I'm going to go with a riser throughout the process, an incredibly gifted athlete that was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. I'm going to go with Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M here, who's still got a lot of untapped potential. But you watch that Texas A&M front this year, they're getting after it from all angles. You've got Nick Scorton, you've got Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart. So it's a really fun unit to watch, and I'm going to take Stewart here to the Vikings.
He reminded me a little bit of at 6'4", 285 unofficially of Darius Robinson last year coming out of Mizzou, so I don't hate that. Rick might, but that's okay. Rick, you're the Buffalo Bills, sir. Pick number 29. Bills need some help in the secondary, but you can decide which way to go.
Yeah, no, they need help in the secondary. They need help at safety, I do believe. Hamlin's been a nice story, but is he the answer? And I think he's a pending free agent. They can move on, in my opinion, from Rapp. And then because they got Cole Bishop there to take a spot there. So I was going to try to pick another young safety to go with him. But I'm not going to do that, Ryan Wilson or
what are you doing?
Josh Edwards. I'm going to do something different. And you may not think it's a need, but I think it's a need. And I am going to go with Von Miller's replacement. Princely is still on the board, and I was ready to take him a couple picks ago, and I'll take him. Uman Mielen.
We got it.
Defensive edge rusher from Mississippi.
From Ole Miss, transfer from Florida. Athlete. Absolutely.
Plus, I don't want Debo to get another edge rusher.
I mean, how many edge rushers do they need? Debo. Well, Brandon Graham's hurt. Debo keeps talking up how they need defensive tackle help. Are you still on that, or is your buddy Jordan Davis playing better, Debo?
I think over the past 2 weeks, I've actually flipped my preference, and both the guys are off the board. But I would be super aggressive towards Colston or Tyler at this point if I were the Eagles.
Oh,
that's where I'm currently at. But they're gone.
You're okay with defensive tackle for now?
Yeah.
All right. Well, what do you need? You want an edge rusher?
Always take an edge rusher.
I like the idea of Landon Jackson here. because I don't think there's any. Did you say something, Rick?
No, go ahead. Take him.
Unless you have some other pressing needs, Debo, that you think makes more sense.
No,
I
I'm
like
sure
I
there's
like
some,
to hear you and Debo talk because this is very entertaining to me.
I think there's some dumbass fans on the internet that would say Jalen Milroe, but we're not in that category. So let's go Landon Jackson.
My last pick in this draft, I'm taking Landon Jackson for Debo's Eagles. Rick, you're right. He has a little bit of Lucas Van Ness in him, but that can work with Vic Fangio, no doubt about it. All right. Somehow, Josh, you're the Kansas City Chiefs. Somehow this team needs to fix the offense, primarily the offensive line. There's a name out there, tackle, that I wonder if you'd be interested in, but you can decide which direction to go.
I would also be interested in cornerback. I don't particularly love the options that are available at this point. I know, depending on who you talk to, there are differing opinions upon this group. It seems like it's a, what flavor of ice cream you like type of conversation. I don't like any of these flavors of ice cream right now. Defensive tackle is a consideration, but where we're going to land, and I was already thinking this, but now I'm curious to know if it's the same player you were alluding to. I'm going to take Josh Simmons from Ohio State because I think he was playing really well before that injury. Left tackle has been an issue this season. I know they signed DJ Humphries. You don't fully know what you have in Wanye Morris or Kingsley Suamataia, but that has to be fixed. So I'm going to take Josh Simmons, who has declared for the draft at this point, with the number 31 overall pick to the Chiefs.
Hey, what do you think of that, Rick, at 31? That's not too rich, I don't think, right? Is Rick frozen? Oh, Rick froze.
Almost made it.
Almost made it. I think the power went out on the island, Rick. Keep shaking your arms until you come back.
Am I on?
There you are. You're back. All right. So we didn't hear any of your thoughts on Josh Simmons at 31. Is that too rich?
Yes.
Oh, you think?
Yes, because he was very inconsistent last year. I do agree that he was much improved, but it was against Akron, Western Kentucky, Marshall. Played okay against Iowa. Got hurt in the Oregon game where he was up and down. So until you see him go against some of the big dogs, you're going off of potential than anything else. So if I'm going to pick in the first round, I don't want to go off potential. I'd rather go off something that I feel very confident about what the player is. I'm recognizing the talent, the athleticism, the unique length, all that stuff. But I don't know if he's ready to say that I would put a first-round pick on it.
I get it. So my follow-up would be to you, if I'm Mr. Hunt. All right, how are we fixing the offensive line then, GM Spielman?
Ask Josh. It's his team, not mine.
All right. Well, Josh drafted him.
Oh, good.
I'm happy with the pick. I saw him go up against Mike Green from Marshall. That's a good player, Rick.
He is a good player, but there was only maybe one rep that he went against them. They put Mike Green over to the left side, or to the over the right tackle. He didn't really match up that whole game. It was like 2 reps at the most that you saw Josh go against him. Iowa, he did play well.
I'm looking at the available free agents in 2024. And Garrett Bowles just re-signed. Walker Little just re-signed. Both tackles for the Rams, Noteboom and L. Eric Jackson, are available. I'm just trying to – Dan Moore, the Steelers, might be available. Are those preferable to spending a first-round pick on someone at the bottom of the first round, Rick?
That tells you that why these teams are locking these guys up right now, because it's not a very good draft for tackles this year. So you bet if you got one, if you have one – I mean, I don't know where you got you one. If you have one, then you better not let him out in free agency, because that seems to be light in the draft this year.
I have my hand on.
By the way, you took Ezra, but that's for another discussion and another podcast.
What are you talking about, Ezra?
That tells you how light this. He's not a first round talent.
Okay, I'm not sure. What I'm confused. What's the Ezra thing?
The Ezra thing is you took him in the first round, correct?
No, who's Ezra?
Ursery.
Oh, Ursery. Sorry.
Yes.
I got thrown off. I was like, what's going on? Yeah, I did. No, that's right. Fair enough. And that's on projection. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. I'm saying
okay,
you're drafting guys in the first round off projection, which you hope you don't have to do.
Right. No,
Right.
that's gotcha. Thank you to Josh for being the translator. I've been with you for 2 years. I still didn't know what you were saying at the time. All right, I have my hand on the dumb bucket, Rick, for this question I'm about to ask you. But just let me finish it before you hem and haw and give it serious consideration.
Okay.
If you are the Chargers and you get a call from the Chiefs and say, I will give you pick 31 for Rashawn Slater, who has one more year left on his deal, first round pick, and then you move Joe Alt to the left side and figure out the right side, would you consider it, or it's not worth it? You're just going to re-sign Slater, keep Joe Alt on the right side?
Who do you have replacing Slater?
You move Joe Alt back to the left.
Then who's going to be your right?
Well, that's what you got to
Are you
sort
going
out.
to pick, what's it, Pipkins? You going to put him back
No,
over and watch him
you are
get bull
not.
rushed again for 100th time?
No, you're not going to do that. But I didn't know if that first round pick would entice you at all to think about that.
That I'd have 2 first round picks in?
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd have to be a little bit more sprinkles on the vanilla cone you just sent me. Ice cream cone.
If I'm the Chiefs, I would think about a first and maybe a third. That would get you going, wouldn't it?
Get me thinking.
Okay. All right. So I've asked dumber questions. On that note, you get to be Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell and Mr. Spielman, younger Spielman, for the Detroit Lions at pick 32 to wrap up this mock draft. What are you doing?
I am going to go with what they've always done. They don't give a rat's tail about what people think or who they're going to take. I'm going to go with the hardest playing. I need defensive line help. I know that. I need depth at defensive tackle. I'm watching the game last week, and I'm like, I have no idea who this kid is. Where the hell is it? They're lining up Bobby Bag of Donuts from Ashland Creek, Ohio, trying to have him go rush the passer. I was like,
no disrespect to Ashland Creek, by the way. We love you, Ashland.
Yeah, send in your 5-star reviews from Ashland Creek.
Thank you. All right, well, I'm intrigued. Who is this player going to be?
Debo, we put the D tackles up.
Oh, I know who it is.
Yeah. Derek Harmon.
Derek Harmon. There it is.
Defensive tackle, Oregon.
He feels like a lion for sure. All right. Other than the Arante Ursery thing, I think that went pretty well. You threw me for a loop on that one. I was like, wait a second. I thought you were having a stroke for a second. So I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad Josh was able to translate for us. That's it.
And only a couple dumb buckets. We only have, 3 entries into the dumb bucket to this podcast, which is a new addition. Thank you to myself.
Thank you for that. For the second straight mock draft, you picked a player that already been drafted. So you're on a roll.
Yeah.
So good.
You know what would be nice is I guess it does show. I don't pay attention.
Yeah, I want to see you talk yourself out of this one. There is a draft board that you can look at. So I don't know who you're going to blame and how you're going to blame Debo.
Yeah, well, because it only shows 2 names. If you were actually in a real draft board, you can see who was actually selected. But that's, I don't know if technology can actually show you that who's been selected as you went through the process.
I can't wait till we get on the road so I can ask some of your former employees in Minnesota how often you try to draft a player that already been drafted.
Well, we actually had technology, even though it could have been magnets that weren't on the board, so you can see who's actually gone.
By the way, before we get out of here, Josh, Rick was the magnet guy when he started working the draft boards. The first magnet he took off, Barry Sanders. That's pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah, I should have kept that magnet.
That's a pretty good one to start. That's a pretty good to start with, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't Adrian Peterson was your first pick too, wasn't
it?
And
that's right. There you go. And now he's on a podcast. You do the math.
Now
on
he's on a podcast.
All right, that's it. Mock draft in the books for December. I'm sure we'll be doing one shortly. I'm Ryan Wilson. That, of course, is Josh Edwards. Thanks for joining us. That's my guy, Rick. And thanks to Debo for producing. And thanks to all you guys who watch, listen, and comment. We will see you guys next week.